Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 54 of Geeks Who Like Sports. Oh, Jesus. If you're watching the video, Lee is already gloating about his Eagles. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Although today, if you hear a slight hum in the background, it's because my air conditioner is running, because it is 96 degrees out here in the valley. It is sweltering hot, and I cannot do the podcast while sweating. And, of course, joined as always by my best friend in the entire world, who listens to me even when I'm a pain in the ass, Lee Elias. Lee is, Lee, how are you doing? You seem to be doing well as you continue to just show off your Eagles football there in the video.
Well, I was waiting for you to say all the way over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, my friend Lee. Lee, how you doing today? I was waiting for your classic intro. What happened?
I was too distracted by that damn football of yours.
And listen, Ray, I'm a year older than you. And that's,
yes.
As someone older than you, can I give you some advice?
Yes.
Don't get distracted. Ray, I'm doing great today. It's
the theme of the day. Ray, don't get distracted.
Ray, don't get distracted. Yeah, no, we got I don't want to do too much of an intro today because we have such a jam-packed show. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot that's happened over the last week, so much so that we're not going to be able to fit all of it into one show. So this is a perfect time to announce we have a bonus episode, a leaderboard episode coming this week. Sometime in the next few days, unless it's like 4 weeks from now when you're listening to this. Ray, I'll let you quickly tease that, and then we'll jump right into the episode.
Yes, we've got my good friend Dan Hevia, who works over at Power Spike, which deals with Twitch influencers and brands. It's really a fascinating interview when you hear what he does and how he works with influencers and web streamers and brands and pairs them up. But what the point is that we spent a lot of time talking to him about the Giants and the Eagles in the NFL draft. So we will talk about the draft a little bit today, but you're gonna have to wait a couple extra days to get your Ray rant because today
and there is one, and there was one.
Yes,
there was an explosion of Ray anger.
Yes,
that you'll have to check out in that new episode.
Yes, there was a Ray rant, so you'll have to wait for that episode. We will briefly touch on some other stories from the draft, not highlighted by the Giants or Eagles, although there was a story that came out today that I will briefly touch upon that actually kind of negates a little bit of the Ray rant, but I think it's too good to not mention. But we will get to that later on. We're going to start off with...
Wait. There's no negating Ray rants. It's just the whole purpose of Ray rants. You'll agree with me here, guys. I'm right. That's how I take every Ray rant. The other thing, too, is before we jump in, we have to do this again. Ray, you did it last week. I'm doing it this week. A lot of new followers, a lot of new listeners recently. Yes. Want to thank all of you for jumping on, liking the Facebook page, and following us on SoundCloud, iTunes, or whatever it is that you're not iTunes, but Apple Podcasts, since iTunes is gone now. Really happy to have you on board. We built this show with the geek sports mind in mind, and the fact that we're growing really shows us that we might be onto something and that our family is bigger than it's ever been because of you. Thank you so much. Now make sure to share this page with a friend. Other than that, Ray, take us away. I'm going to try and do every transition today like some 90s TV show. Yeah. Here we go, Ray.
I'll try and put it in a star wipe later or something. But yeah, also, I want to mention, you also, like Lee said, Apple Podcasts. We've got some more 5-star reviews, which I appreciate, and I saw this week. So, yeah, leave a review, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. If you want,
we should do that. Don't make Ray rant about the reviews. Give us 5 stars, and you'll be through.
Yeah.
Back to you, Ray.
I mean, you don't have to give us 5 stars. I would really, really appreciate it if you gave us 5 stars and feels this is 5 stars.
Do the mafia things. Like, listen, I'm not telling you to give us 5 stars or not to give us 5 stars. What I'm telling you is if we don't get 5 stars, you'll be seeing stars when I find you, okay? And Ray always finds me. Lee, what do you think about this? Listen to me very carefully. I have a very particular set of skills. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will make you give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, back to you, Ray.
Yeah.
I said this would be a short intro. We're already 5 minutes in.
I know.
I screwed up, guys. Listen, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate it as well. But like Lisa said, it'd be in your own best interest and ours as well if you gave us 5 stars. Anyway, the first story is a kind of a sad one because we might be getting the chance for less stars in the future. This is something that Lee brought to my attention and is actually a very serious story about Major League Baseball. Minor League Baseball is in the process of working with Major League Baseball had first pitched this to minor league baseball because they are run by two separate organizations. Earlier to start contracting teams to have a more streamlined advancement process through A-ball, AA, AAA, and then to the majors. Minor League Baseball fought against this, but now because of the pandemic, minor league baseball has become more receptive to this idea, and they are in talks now to cut the minor leagues from 160 teams down to 120. They've also gone to the MLBPA, and they've agreed to shorten the draft in the next couple of years, because with less teams, obviously there's a need for less players. And that the hope is that this would realign the minor leagues better with their major league affiliates. Lee, I want to get your thoughts on this. To me, my initial reaction is sad, but given the circumstances of the time, I also understand it.
Yeah, look, it is a complete monetary decision, and before you start jumping up at home, be like, it's always about the money. It is about the money because these teams cannot operate if there's no money. That's just the reality of it. Yeah. If you want them to operate, you need to go buy tickets and get to the game. So here's what I look at. When you look at that many clubs being cut, that tells me that a lot of organizations are running at a loss, and that this situation, when you lose an entire season, which is what it looks like it will be in the minor leagues, there are some teams that just will not be able to fiscally recover at this time. So you have to trim them down. Is that fair to the athlete? Probably not, but this pandemic is not fair in general. That's just the way the world works sometimes. So I don't think you shouldn't look at this as like, well, this is how it is and how it's going forever. This is how it is right now. I'm sure some of these teams will respawn as years go and revenues come back and the demand comes back. But look, I've seen some A-ball, and if they don't have fans, it's a tragic environment, and you just cannot justify the cost after having lost a year's worth of revenue. So they're going to have to slowly recoup that revenue in seasons to come. And yes, some teams will suffer because of it, or as you said, be gone. And like I said, that's a significant amount of teams. Yeah. It also begs the question, was minor league baseball too bloated? Maybe they were spending too much money. Maybe there were too many teams and not enough talent. So again, the short-term negative is that you're losing a lot of teams. There will be a lot of hometown fans that are very upset about this, and I do feel for those people, especially if they've been buying tickets for years. The long-term is, with a more streamlined way of getting to the pros, it's going to make minor league baseball a lot better in terms of a talent. The teams that do exist the teams will get more competitive. They will probably also get more tickets. Okay, so the system will rise again, but this is a necessary step. And look, this is very similar to the XFL ceasing operations. It's just financially they cannot continue to go this way if they don't want to bankrupt themselves in the future. So again, from a pure business decision, it's totally understandable, although painful, that this is happening. And then, like I said, if you're a fan and you're upset, then make sure that your local team that cancels or that goes under, make sure you let them know and get everybody together that we want to support a baseball team in the city the following season. Let them know that you're going to do that. Mm-hmm. If you don't do that, it will not return. So, again, it's another result of the pandemic. It's another thing we'll get through together. And, again, the short-term negatives don't outweigh the long-term positives, because the long-term negative is there's no baseball. So that's how you have to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, and even if that's the thing, is that even if there is baseball this year, they've talked about there being they would expand the rosters to 40 players for the entire season in order to better accommodate the minor leaguers who are going to probably be out of many. It won't accommodate all of them, but it'll at least accommodate a few of the minor leaguers who would be out of jobs this year. And also, there is good. I mean, Major League Baseball does predict that, yes, this will be a lower overhead and higher profit margins for the teams that continue to exist. And they're also talking about certain teams that, like, there are teams in Maryland that they were talking about that only play, like, half seasons anyway in, like, more of an indie league, that they would be absorbed into the minor leagues and be given full seasons. So some teams in some cities might actually prosper from this even more so than we originally thought. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, but it is, and again, it's also a more streamlined. Again, you have a major league team, you have 30 major league teams, which means every major league team would then have 4 minor league teams, as you know, probably a rookie ball, A ball, AA, AAA, and then the majors. So it would streamline the approach. It gives guys a better goal to what they can, where they want to achieve and where they want to get to.
We should also mention there's independent baseball as well. And that's not within the MILB. So, like, where we went to college, there's a team that plays out of Montclair State University. Yeah, the Jackals, which the last time I checked, it's been a while, but they were an independent club that does not operate under that. So those leagues might see a benefit, and those players might be able to go to teams like that. But yeah, again, in the short term, this has to happen. And look, it's also a facility question. I didn't bring that up. I mean, like, if you go to like the Cal Ripken baseball park, which is located in just northern Maryland, like, that's not going to go anywhere, right? Because it's a major facility, right? But if you look at like the Delaware Blue Rocks, I don't know. You know what I mean? I can't tell you who's going to have baseball and who's not, but I can tell you that I think Delaware might be actually an independent team. The teams that you're going to see go away probably have very little attendance and poor facilities, and it's time to let them move by. But again, drastic times, drastic measures, not shining light on the fact that it's being removed, but trying to look at the business side and understand the decisions being made.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point. Baseball did say that they would invest in the facilities that remain to try and help bring them up to snuff, and that will help them decide which teams stay and which teams don't, too. So that will be, how much.
And again, you said, Ray, that they had been looking to do this for a while. So it's not. This isn't a new idea. This is something that the Major League Baseball MLB has been trying to do for a long time. So,
yeah, no, for sure, it is something they've been trying to do for a while, and now finally minor league baseball, which again run by a separate organization in affiliation with Major League Baseball, is ready to capitulate because they realize that again during this time it's just that response to the pandemic, which like Lee said, it's not fair to anyone. It is what it is. So. Moving on now to one sport that no longer to teams that might not happen to teams that are going to come back. Hopefully, the NHL has supposedly leaked the plan to where they are going to be playing on 4 or 5 neutral sites. They will have a mini camp in June. They would play the rest of the regular season, at least assumedly at this point, in July, and try and finish the Stanley Cup playoffs through July, and then probably the first week of August to try and then give the guys probably a full month to 6 weeks off before hopefully we can go back to a regular season in later this fall. So, Lee, I mean, I know you have to be excited about the possibility of hockey coming back. I know it's overall, though, it sounds like a feasible and good idea.
Yeah, when they first started floating the idea in terms of started seeing reports, I tend to take those things with a grain of salt at first. Because, every league has said, oh, we do this, we do that. But I've seen a lot of reports now, and I've seen some people within the sport say that they're seriously considering this avenue. So here's the thing. I said this in a previous episode. Gary Bettman, the commissioner of the NHL, has said repeatedly that they have to operate in what's best for the game, and they have to honor the game, which is something I completely agree in. So like, if they're willing to do this in 4 areas, which I think is pretty ambitious, but still pretty cool that they're committed to getting the game going, I think you have to end the regular season. And I think the key to this is there has to be 7-game series throughout the entire playoffs. So I am actually, and some of my hockey friends and fans might disagree with me on this, I am not for an abbreviated playoffs where it's best of 5 or best of 3. I think that is where you start getting to that line of, is this honorable to the sport of hockey or not? The 7-game series is something that really defines the NHL playoffs, and it takes 2 months to do the playoffs. Now, here's the other side of this. If you run it in 4 sites, you might be able to accelerate the time period between games, because now you could absolutely do it every other day. There's no travel really involved. There's no home team per se. But still, that would take about 6 weeks to get the playoffs done. So I think the plan is, as you said, Ray, get them skating in June, July, August, finish the regular season, and then the playoffs would end sometime in September or even early October, and there would be another time off. There will not be fans in the building. This is just going to be full-out NHL games without fans, as I think all sports will be doing even into next season. I think it's going to be a while before we see capacity crowds again in any sporting environment. But yeah, I love that they're being ambitious. Obviously, this is all contingent on some of the quarantine being lifted or restrictions being lifted for those types of environments. And that the NHLPA can come to the agreement that the players are going to have to be heavily quarantined during this just to make sure that they don't get infected. But, I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting because it's something new. It's hockey. It keeps the integrity of the game without removing it. And like I said, what you want to remove, and this is for all sports, not just NHL, But you just want to remove this conversation. Oh, yeah, this team won it, but it was the pandemic year. You know what I mean? Like right. You hear with oh, it was the lockout year. You know, if they had a full season, it would have been totally different. Like, you want to try and avoid those conversations where, look, everyone's going to remember the team that wins that's the team that won during the pandemic. But you don't want to have that conversation of, well, they wouldn't have won if X, Y, and Z. You know, like,
right.
It would be like me saying, like, well, the Flyers were definitely going to win the Cup if this didn't happen, which is like, I don't say that because I don't know that. Nobody knows that. They were getting hot. So I think that's the key. Like, I don't want to have a conversation if they do like best of 5 or best of 3 of like, well, if there were best of 7, then this team totally would have won. Like, I don't. Right. That to me is like, we can't get there. That shouldn't happen. But again, super. It's tough to tell. I gotta say this. I don't want to get my hopes up for anything. So like, I'm excited about it, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, we'll see.
Right.
Because like, we got to see how this thing goes, and like, I don't like the. Like, I don't like what most of this has been, which has been like a slow Band-Aid rip. You know, just rip the Band-Aid off if we're not going to do it. So, like, if we get to June and it's not looking at just end the season. Like,
yeah,
it's understandable. I get it. We couldn't finish. There's a pandemic. Totally understand. And you move on. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be the first time a sports season or something was canceled. Keep in mind, last thing I'll say, I believe it was the 1919 Stanley Cup Final was suspended in the middle of the final due to the Spanish flu. They were in the final. And they suspended it because of the flu. So,
yeah,
I mean, that would be way worse. Get 2 games left in the final, and it's like, oh, you know, never mind. Ray, what do you think?
It's over. Yeah, it's like, no, that would be terrible. No, I mean, it would be. No, I think though, the only thing that'd be interesting is that obviously some guys have had a chance to get healthy now. You've got some teams that get some rest. Like, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if there's a team that's on the bubble, like say the New York Rangers, who suddenly go on, say they only play 6 more games of the regular season, right? Say they don't play the full 12 remaining regular season games or whatever to try and cram this in or whatever, which I think people would be okay with. Like you said, I think people would rather have 4 7-game rounds of the playoffs and be okay with cutting the season short a little.
My only caveat with that is that every team would have to play an equal number of games. So I am not for a scenario where one team's played 72 and one team's played 68. Okay, so if they want to come back and say, okay, everyone's getting to 75 games, and we're suspending the rest of this. Right. Like, I think people would be understanding of that.
Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. Like, I completely agree with that as well. Where, if the number was 75, 76, or whatever, and they're like, okay, we're gonna cut the season here. But everybody
keeping in mind that would be really hard to do. That would be really hard to do because it's not like everybody just gets to 75 games and it stops. Like if a team hits 75 games and they're playing, they can't play that game against the team that has 74 games now. So there'd be some scheduling.
Maybe it's 80, maybe it's whatever. I'm sure the schedule makers are looking at it as well to try and figure out if they have to actually play the full 82.
Yeah. But there has to be an even playing field with the end of regular season play.
Right.
There has to be.
But I think that's definitely on the cusp. But I would love to see if somebody like a team came back and got healthy and like went on a tear, or a team, who knows, some of those bubble teams might just completely collapse. Like, you don't know. Like, you might have a real clear delineation between what's a playoff team and what's not. Depending on, or somebody like the Leafs might get super hot now. It could it's an interesting restart to what could.
It's part of the fun.
Yeah. Yes, to what could happen. Speaking of what could happen and what was a lot of fun this past weekend was the draft. Like I said earlier, Dan Hevia, special guest later in the week. You will get our full Giants and Eagles in-depth analysis. This draft will be for a couple of other stories. The Colts in the 4th round took Jacob Eason out of Washington, probably their quarterback of the future. Obviously, we'll sit here behind Phillip Rivers, who's now the quarterback of the Colts, and this is probably the guy they're looking to probably take the reins, because again, and this is something that me and Lee want to talk about, this is the 2nd year in a row that the Colts did not have a first-round draft pick. They keep trading their first-round draft picks. This year they traded to San Francisco for a defensive tackle. And of course, and also that should be said, the Niners were super active this draft, like way more than this is the only way we're going to touch on the Eagles. They traded to the Eagles, Marquise Goodwin, a receiver, and they swapped. I think it was 5th round picks, or they swapped, or I think the Eagles got a 6th and the Niners got the 5th.
We got a few picks. We got a couple picks out of that.
Yeah, and you got Marquise Goodwin, which is like to me, the Eagles. You only dropped back 20 spots in a late round pick, and you got a pretty solid receiver out of it.
I trust Howie Roseman, man. I really do. He really knows how to build a team.
I think that Roseman definitely got the better end of that deal. I have no idea what Lynch is doing in San Francisco. Also, they were not blindsided. They probably knew it was coming a bit. But Joe Staley, their Pro Bowl superstar left tackle, after 13 years, had decided to hang up his cleats in the middle of the draft weekend. So the Niners finally ended the Trent Williams debacle in Washington and traded 2 picks, a 5th round this year and a 3rd round next year, for what was once one of the best left tackles in the game. But, of course, he got cancer. He got better, but he blamed the Washington staff for that a little bit. Then he demanded would get paid, and obviously Snyder refused to pay him. Because why would you want to pay a guy who played on your team while he had cancer? So obviously that relationship terribly, terribly soured. He sat up all of last year, and then finally Ron Rivera, who's now who's in charge as well as in coach, was like, "I'm going to trade you to San Francisco." So immediately they take somebody who, if he can get into football shape, could be a perfect replacement for Staley at left tackle day one, and really save them there. But then the Niners traded one of their 3 running backs, Matt Breida, to the Dolphins. I don't know what the Niners are doing. I understand why Miami took him. Breida, when he was healthy, was a terrific back for them. And they only gave up a 5th rounder for him. They had tons of draft picks this year. And again, somebody with veteran experience who could help Tua day one. But what are the Niners doing? What is your analysis?
Yeah, look, this is a team that just lost the Super Bowl. There's a lot of going into these decisions. This is what I'll tell you, Ray. This is kind of a broad overview. Oh, by the way, for those of you who want my opinion on the Eagles taking a second quarterback, that's definitely when to listen to this other interview. My response might surprise you. But this is what I'll tell you. Look, the draft is always a hard thing for me. Not that I don't watch it or enjoy it or like seeing the athletes get picked, but there's so little that we know as spectators to what's going through the mind of these organizational leaders, GMs, coaches, that it's like, it's so easy for us to, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, it's so easy for us to sit back and say, what are you doing? Why did you do that? There's a lot of risks that get taken by these GMs. Sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't. And here's the thing, we have to remember the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL was a just forgotten pick that no one expected to turn into the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Yeah. So I'm going to say this again. You never know what's going to happen in the draft. You never know how these players are going to turn out. Statistics show that 50% of drafted players, including the first round, do not come to fruition.
Yeah.
All right, 50%. So half the picks you make are not going to make it. These GMs know that. It doesn't mean that they're not taking their time and making the best possible informed decision, but they're making decisions they think it will better their team. And there's so much. I mean, you talk about guys living in their own world. There's so much that goes into these decisions, and they're not listening to the fan base. They're listening to themselves. So, like I said, people go nuts when the Eagles take a second quarterback. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's the most important position in the game. People go nuts. These guys traded him, and they traded that guy. They traded this guy. Yeah, in fact, Ray, last night we talked. This isn't something we didn't talk about in the interview. I showed you the Eagles receiving core, because I remember we were talking. I said, I don't think we're as rough shape as you think. We were heavily injured, and you saw our receiving core. That's not as bad as I thought. So there's just a lot that goes into these things that people don't think about. And again, you don't know the room. Some of these guys, some of these players could be complete morons and horrible people, and we've seen plenty of that last season. Yes. Plenty of it.
Yes.
The way the season started, you saw it. So you could have a top tier, look like they're going to be a Hall of Fame talent, go to the Oakland Raiders, and now he's never going to play football again because he's an a-hole.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? So it's what I'm trying to say. There's so much that goes into this that we don't see, that at some point you have to kind of just sit back and, I mean, I'm not saying, hey, trust your GM, because that's not fair to you or a lot of other fans. But you got to sit back and go, look, I don't really know what they're doing or what they need. I know what I think they need. I'd like to see them take this, and they didn't or they did. All right, but like here's a question for you, Ray. All right, and I don't know the answer to this question. I'm not trying to prove a point here. How many picks have the Giants made that you were ecstatic about? I mean, like, that's the guy I wanted. Thank God. And it turned into, like, the greatest. It turned out to be as good as you thought it would. All right? Because I can't tell you one player that the Eagles have drafted that I looked at and I was like, that's the best pick ever. It's come to fruition. You know, we didn't think that with Foles. We didn't think that with Wentz. We didn't think that with McNabb. Didn't think that with Son Jackson. I can go back through time. Name me one pick you thought was a perfect pick, you know, that ended up playing itself to fruition. You know what I mean?
No, not full. I mean, for most of the time, like you, I hate the Giants picks. I'm very vocal about this.
Yes, you do.
Even when and then you're right. And then even when I'm like, oh, this could work out well in the end, it either doesn't fully get there. I mean, I would say the Landon Collins pick I liked, and it was great, but it was a shame that we let him go after 4 years because Landon Collins is one of the best safeties in the league, but the Giants didn't want to pay
this is
him.
my point. That's my point. It doesn't count, right? It doesn't come to fruition. I mean, look, even
Eli,
look, if you look,
but even that, I don't know. I hated Eli.
That was a good pick. Yeah. That's my point. It wasn't like a big pick at the time. You're like, what are you doing? We don't want this kid from Ole Miss. He won you 2 Super Bowls. So I'm just trying to say that really, you know what position. I am all in the draft. Not that this is the most important drafted position, although people would make the argument that it totally is. Mm-hmm. The only position I think you can look at in a draft and be very excited about is an offensive lineman. All right, because I think that is the most underrated position, but I think size and speed with those guys is pretty obvious in terms of succeeding. You know, we said, if you got a 6'8" guy that's super fast and super flexible, and you draft that guy, life's going to probably be good. It's a very low probability that guy's not going to pan out, right?
Well,
but when it comes to like a receiver or a running back, you know,
a lot of folks were ragging on the Jets for taking Mikael Becton. Mikael Becton's 6'7.5". You can't teach 6'7.5", right? That's like what Jim Ross used to say. It's like you can't teach 6'11", 350. Like you can't teach 350, 6'7.5" to play, and he's a left tackle. Like the Jets. I'll say this: the Jets actually started well, and then had a terrible draft later. I mean, including taking a punter with their 6th-round pick.
Well, it's the Jets.
Yeah, it's the Jets.
This works in basketball too. Like if you get a 7'8" player that's in the draft, I'm not just saying that anyone who's 7'8" can play basketball, but you get a 7'8" player in the draft, he's probably going to put some baskets up. I mean,
yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? I mean, I know that's extremely tall, but so that's what I'm saying. Like when we get linemen, I'm very I focus on that a bit. You know what I mean? And look, there's a reason they get drafted so high, right? There's a reason that most of the time before the running backs and the receivers go, it's linemen and quarterbacks, right? Because they're important. And we saw what happened to Eli when he didn't have an offensive line.
Yeah.
Completely fell apart. I don't think that was his fault. Oh, he's aging. There's no one blocking for him. Are you kidding me? Like it's not. Tom Brady is 42. He's got great linemen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's that's why I mean, and again, we'll talk more about this, and you'll hear more in the next episode. I did mention that I didn't hate the Giants' Andrew Thomas pick. I understood it. I wish we could have traded back a couple spots because I still think he would have been there at 6 or 7 or 8. But I completely am okay with that pick. It was the late round picks. It was basically everything after the 1st-round pick that I kind of had a problem with the Giants. So
here's all I'm saying: the only athlete in recent years that I can remember, and this is not going to be the only one. Okay, the only athletes I can remember that got drafted and people were legit excited it panned out. You know, one would be Russell Wilson, one would be Peyton Manning. Keeping in mind Peyton Manning, I think wasn't Ryan Leaf in that draft.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Leaf went ahead of Peyton.
But it went ahead of him. But if I was a Colts,
was Leaf
I
one
think
to
he
the
was
Chargers?
1.
And
I think Peyton was 2.
Peyton went 2 to the Colts.
Okay, and my thing is, if I was a Colts fan, I'd be pretty excited about that. Okay,
yeah.
But like for the most part, I mean, like you want some names that didn't pan out. Ricky Williams. All right, like everybody wanted him. Everybody wanted him, and everybody passed him because these teams. This is the other thing. The teams knew. They knew he was not going to pan out, that he was a massive risk. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. And you know, I mean, Reggie Bush is another one, right? It's like just didn't pan out in the NFL like he needed to.
Odell Beckham.
Yeah, you just don't know. Yeah, you just don't know. And again, these guys had careers, But none of these guys had the career where Ray, you're sitting there and be like, that guy got drafted. He won that team a Super Bowl. Thank God they got him. Where people weren't losing their minds. Again, Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson are the two that come to my mind. And again, I'm sure there are others, but you're talking maybe 10 players over 40 years when there's a 7-round draft. Think about the statistics. That's why I don't lose my mind. It's just, you just don't know. I'm happy we got new athletes. I hope they pan out.
I was super excited the year we landed Brandon Jacobs in the 4th round as a running back. And of course, he ended up winning 2. I was like, that's the kind of big bruising back that we need. And of course, he helped lead the Giants to 2 Super Bowls. Him and Ahmad Bradshaw splitting carries in the backfield he ended up retiring. And people will forget this. It also depends on what you define as having a great career. Brandon Jacobs finished his career as with the most rushing touchdowns in Giants history. So you know what? He only played 8 years, but for a running back, that's not bad. And he finished with 7,000 yards. Yes, it's not Jim Brown, it's not Emmitt Smith, it's not Barry Sanders, but 7,000 yards, most touchdowns in Giants history, and 2 Super Bowls. Yeah, I'm still pretty happy over the Brandon Jacobs pick.
Oh, there you go. There's your one.
Yeah, I got one. We got one.
We got one. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Yeah.
Again, this is why this is Geeks That Like Sports, because that makes sense to everyone that's listening.
Yes, exactly. Now, there's also, really quickly, again, you'll hear me bash him a little bit, the Giants' 6th-round pick, Cam Brown, because I called him basically. He's gonna be a great special teamer. I don't see him being a starting linebacker, and I still don't know. But boy, after what came out today, am I rooting for this kid now? Because first off, not only do I believe he added a 6 to his Twitter handle specifically to say yes, I'm a 6th-round pick. But remember, Tom Brady was also a 6th-round pick. People dug up him basically hating on the Cowboys in his tweet history, which I am all about. So already he's a Giant, but he hates the Cowboys. I'm okay. I don't think you're gonna be good, but I'm rooting for you like hell now, kid.
So, Ray, this proves my point that fans know nothing what they're talking about when it comes to the draft.
Yes.
All right. If that is a qualifier for you, you should not be drafting for your team. I'm teasing you 100%. I know where you're coming from because I love it when Eagles understand that as well. But this is my point, right? This is like that. That's the thing that gets you excited. Not any of his football history. It's his tweeting history.
Yeah, not that he was a captain at Penn State or anything like that.
No, it doesn't matter. Captain of a program that has come back to glory from hell. That doesn't matter. What matters to Ray is his tweet history that's congruent with the entire country's interests. See what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. So that.
Did he tweet anything about the Eagles? Because I can have a reason to hate him. He probably likes the Eagles.
I mean, nothing about the Eagles has been dug up.
You don't go to Penn State and bash the teams in PA. The Steelers and Eagles are probably pretty safe from him.
Yeah, probably. So I think he's alright. Even Washington, he's from Maryland, so he probably didn't say anything about Washington either. But it's good that he hates the Cowboys. He was
a big Defenders fan.
Maybe. He was there adding to the beer snake. But
yes.
So that's it for the draft, but we're not done with football. We got 2 more football stories. The first, Lamar Jackson, quarterback for the Ravens, officially named Madden NFL 21 cover athlete. And this is here's the thing. Now I want to ask now, because we've had in recent history, I think the curse is still exists, but I think it is not as bad as it used to be.
No, it's much worse now.
How is it? So there are some examples of it being much worse. All right.
No. You don't need examples. I'll tell you what happened. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. I'll let you describe it. Who's on the cover of NFL 20?
Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl champion.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to do his Pokemon voice.
Yeah.
All right. He is on the cover, and he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Immediately after winning the Super Bowl, we have a pandemic on the planet, thus proving that the Madden gods are pissed. They are so mad that they have dove the world into a pandemic, canceling all sports, not just football, all sports. So now we have to pray to the pig iron gods that we are sorry. We are sorry that Mahomes was so good at football that he won the Super Bowl. You know why they're okay? Side note. Thank God. I really mean this. I'm being serious now. We are very fortunate, and San Francisco fans, Mel Kirk, I'm really sorry about this, but we were really fortunate that Kansas City won the Super Bowl because, and this is statistically known, if San Fran won, there would have been a big parade in San Francisco right when this virus was going.
Yeah.
And it would have. I mean, it would have made this
San
way worse.
San Fran would be bad as New York right now if it wasn't.
Or worse. Yeah. Or worse. And like I said, if the NBA didn't shut down, this might have spread across the country a lot faster. So in a weird way, we're lucky. But when it comes to the Madden gods, they're mad, Ray. And again, the curse is broken, and it's cursed mankind. Okay, so now we have to beat this pandemic, or next year's cover athlete's going to have to get injured. I'm sorry. You're going to have to be sacrificed to the football gods.
I mean, the thing is Mahomes did get hurt.
Mahomes,
he did get hurt last year.
He did. But he spit in the face of the Madden gods.
He came back
and won the Super Bowl.
By the way, I like how you combined pigskin and gridiron into pig iron and called them the pig iron gods.
Did I say pig iron?
You said pig iron. Yeah, it sounded like.
Wow, I'm smarter than that. I meant to say pig skin, but if I said pig iron, that's even better. That's a new Pokemon.
I like that. Pig iron. Actually, yeah, there you go.
Pig iron.
Generation
pig
10.
Iron.
There you go.
Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes on the pig iron. That's a good
Mahomes, I choose you. Mahomes, pig iron, I choose you.
I mean, to say the curse was starting to lift a little bit anyway. Because I'll say so. Gronk was on cover in Madden NFL 17. The Patriots won the Super Bowl that year, but Gronk did not play in the Super Bowl. Gronk missed the last half of the season. He was hurt most that year.
That was the sacrifice.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it. Listen, the athlete, the team can win, but the athlete cannot play in the game.
Okay, or the next year was Tom Brady. Tom Brady lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles that year.
Yes.
And then 19. Well, 19 was a.
Oh, I'm sorry. We injured his pride, so that counts.
That works. And then 19 was a true Madden year because Antonio Brown was on the cover of Madden 19.
That was brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, that was listen, that was a warning from the gods of like, I will ruin this man's life.
Yeah.
I will ruin his life and burn his feet. Do not tempt the EA Sports Madden gods. Yeah. Also, now you know the reason that Tom Brady dropped that pass in Super Bowl 52. All right, it was coming. He could have caught it. He goes, the gods, drop the ball.
Yeah.
All right. He goes, I'm going to let Foles have this one.
Yeah.
Because I can't. How do you think he's still playing? He paid the gods off.
Yeah.
You think he's going to the Buccaneers? He's paid. They're going to win. He's paid the gods off. And you know what he said? He said that the gods came to Brady and said, Tom, who should we put on the cover? Who'd he say, Ray? Who'd he say?
No, not me.
NFL 21. Yeah, not me. Who's on the cover?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson, which means that you know who's Baltimore. I'm sorry, but it's your fault.
He's gonna have his Michael. This is the year he's gonna have his Michael Vick like injury where he will not be able to run anymore.
Disclaimer: I am in no way actually hoping that this man gets injured.
Yes, no. We are joking around. We are having a good time.
We are very
just
happy
fun.
with him. Yes. If the football gods can actually hear me. Do you think they listen to this podcast? Oh my God! Can you imagine football gods like up in heaven on the pig iron listening to this podcast?
Stars. They gave us 5 stars.
Yes. So what? Well, no. If we get another 5-star review from the initials are just EA Madden, we'll know.
Yeah.
Now one of our listeners is definitely going to go on there as EA Madden and leave us a 5-star review. And I got to tell you, as a geek, I appreciate it.
Yes, we all appreciate it.
Don't tempt the gods.
Yes.
Okay. See, the NHL games, you just get a bad game. There's a difference. You get Snoop Dogg in the game. You don't tempt the Madden gods of football on the pig iron. I'm just going to keep saying pig iron because it's funny now. In tradition. So, Ray, back to you.
Yes, so speaking of Gronk and Brady and the Bucs, it feels like so it's been like forever this week. But at the beginning of the week, New England traded Gronk to the Bucs for, I believe, a 4th round pick. And And so Gronk, and they did the funny TikTok where Brady blows into the conch shell and Gronk comes running around the corner saying, "Reporting for duty, sir," and it's hysterical.
Not social distancing whatsoever, by the way.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So Gronk has 1 year left on his contract. The Bucs will pay him the money that he's owed. Whether or not he plays anymore after that, we'll see. But clearly, he's already getting back in football shape. Everybody says he's ready to go. The Bucs look good. If Gronk can be even a shell of his former self, Gronk is a huge addition to this offense. Already
that division.
That division?
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's the thing. It's a tough division, right? Atlanta got better. Yeah. Carolina got better.
We'll
Saints
see.
they're still strong. Like, it is going to be a stacked NFC South. You could see if this is the first year, and honestly, if this is supposed to be the first year where you have a 7-team playoffs because they were talking about it, you could have every team from the NFC South make it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I can see that happening.
For sure.
Like if it's a 7 seat where you have the 4 division winners, and then you could have all 3 wild cards come from the NFC South.
I'll make this point, Ray, on your point, that we will not see every team from the NFC East make the playoffs. I'm going to guarantee that. I don't do sports guarantees. Guaranteeing that not every team from the NFC East will get in. Yeah, no, like it's a cool move. There was a lot of people talking about did he out Belichick by doing this, like by sitting out. I don't think so. I think that Gronk is a very surface person where he just didn't, he was thinking about retiring and he missed the game and he wasn't going to play for Belichick again without Brady, and everybody kind of wins. You got to trust the Patriots to use a 4th round pick wisely, and this is a great kind of swan song for those 2 players, no matter how it turns out. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just everybody wins. Everybody won in that. Yep. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yep, and WWE immediately released Gronk from his contract amicably, but he will have to at some point do one more appearance to drop the 24/7 championship since he is currently the 24/7
Now, how great would it be if Brady takes it from him?
That would be hysterical. Could you imagine? They start passing the 24/7 championship around the NFL? Like there's a WWE ref
what
at
I
every
would
game.
do. What I would do is if I was writing, I would have Brady somehow just kind of take it from him in his sleep or something stupid.
Yeah.
And then hand it to like Triple H or something like that.
Yeah.
Just give it back like this is a distraction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just make it funny. Like that's how I would do it if he'd be willing to do it. I don't know if that's his
I'm
style.
sure they'll do something fun or funny to show how he drops the belt. And I'm sure that the door is still always open for him to go to wrestling whenever he wants.
You got to give him credit for letting him go with everything that's going on within wrestling. It's a great transition point, Ray.
Yeah, yes, I know. And as you mentioned Triple H, we should also mention that there was a huge celebration this week for Triple H's 25th year in wrestling. Obviously, has risen through the ranks, began as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and has risen through the ranks tremendously, became one of the best wrestlers of a generation, the cerebral assassin. Now, obviously, probably a bigger influence on the business than even Vince McMahon is at this current point. You're
going to find in today's Geek segments, we have a lot of quick topics we're going to kind of rapid fire through a bit. But the one thing I wanted to say about Triple H, and Ray and I spoke before the show about should we bring this up, is that when I look at Triple H, and this is something I've always wanted to say, even if you're not a wrestling fan, you'll understand this. He's not someone on the surface that should have succeeded with his character choices early on, but he loved wrestling so much. He is such how do I say this? He's such he's so into wrestling in his youth and in his younger years that he created his way into the business and now into one of probably the most important position in the business, in the active business, having married into wrestling royalty, having married Stephanie McMahon and having children, obviously. But really a visionary in a lot of ways, made really good choices except for one early on in his career. That almost got kicked out of the WWF. He was one of the first wrestlers to break character. He was one of the first wrestlers to break character ever, and Vince was pissed about it. Huh?
The Wolfpack.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a story you guys can look up online. But I just his passion for wrestling is what put him through, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. Even Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, came on and gave him a little special shout out, which when DJ does that, that's not something anyone should take lightly. He's the biggest action star in the world, approaching billionaire status. So, just want to congratulate Triple H on 25 years. I was privileged to grow up during the Attitude Era and watch him on a daily basis do really high quality wrestling, and also for giving birth to the Croc, the greatest non-Rock character in DX. Again, I don't want to spend too much time. Just respected careers, and hopefully 25 more years to go.
Yes. Hopefully many more coming to him.
Time to play the game.
Yes. Exactly.
Sorry, I had to. Time to play the game.
Yeah, from Lemmy from Motorhead, who's no longer with us. But
yes,
anyway,
I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. It just comes out sometimes. I don't know why it's coming out, but it comes out.
Speaking of wrestling, we're also our next story. WWE 2K21 officially canceled. This is a big deal. This is not surprising for folks who know, who have been paying attention to all the goings on around the last game from 2K. The last game was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. The worst game they put out in years. Big mistake letting Ukes go. Ukes was co-developing along with the internal 2K team, and it just became, they let them go to save money, and it was too much for the internal 2K team, it seems. And the past couple years, it's been on a steady decline, and it hit rock bottom last year. And now with poor sales and the pandemic and WWE looking to cut corners and save money where they can, this was something that was felt to be not necessary, and we're going to get more. We're going to get more about the announcement in the coming days, supposedly from WWE officials and 2K officials. But this honestly is not the worst thing in the world. I think them going yearly was a mistake. I think we've seen this with a lot of franchises that have, like Assassin's Creed, that came to their senses, stopped going yearly, or did two in a row, and then took 2 years off, and then 2 in a row, and took 2 years off, kind of thing. Maybe you'll see a more arcadey game from WWE in the meantime, but hopefully the next time they come back, it's something named like SmackDown or No Mercy or Warzone, and it's just a name, and they can kind of do it once every couple of years and really make these games the best that they could be. And I think that it would sell better if they weren't every year, because people don't buy wrestling games every year like they buy Madden every year or buy NHL every year, and there aren't even that many of those, or Call of Duty every year. So I think this is a good chance. We've talked about this before, but the pandemic is a good chance for everybody to reflect and to look at things and maybe come out the better for it on the other side.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to William Bristow, a listener of ours who actually was very vocal about this topic in our Geeks Who Like Sports group and was asking about it. Mm-hmm. When you look at WWE gaming, I mean, the mobile games have done very well on phones. I agree with everything that you said, Ray. This is all I'll say. Is this is just a great chance for them. Again, you have to look at it like an opportunity. It's a great chance for them to step back. They have an excuse to do it. So it's not super embarrassing when you think about it, right? Mm-hmm. And rethink how they're going to do wrestling games in the future. And it's WWE, so they'll be very innovative about this. I mean, I remember, and again, we're going back 25 years here, but I remember that the games that used to come out were the events. WrestleMania was a game. Yep. Survivor Series was a game. But it didn't come out. It was like one per system back then. Again, this is a different thing. But there's a lot they could do to really kind of revamp this. Now, hear me out, Ray. What if they did WWE Origins, and you have to pick a wrestler, and you run on a 2D space, right? And, you have to be almost like Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat, and, you have to run through his story and fight people randomly along the way. Does that sound like a game that would succeed?
No.
Oh, what? They tried that once? They tried that with
Mortal Kombat.
I'm hearing in my ear that Mortal Kombat tried that one time. Mortal Kombat Mythologies, the forgotten game. They were going to do it with every character, and it didn't work. They started with Sub-Zero. It was one of the worst Mortal Kombat, probably rated the worst Mortal Kombat game of all time.
That and Shaolin Monks.
This was way worse than Shaolin Monks, but I agree.
Yeah.
At least Shaolin Monks had a story, albeit a horrendous story. Yeah. This is, they'll find their way, is my point. I trust World Wrestling Entertainment to understand how to do entertainment.
Yeah.
Back to you, Ray.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, so that does it. Speaking of video games, a quick shout out for those of you looking for something to play right now. Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 was just announced to be free until May 10th. So if you got yourself an Xbox One or a PS4 and you're looking for something to play, free Pac-Man. Can't go wrong. Free Pac-Man. Exactly. Also,
good,
we're going to take...
I can hear that in my headphones. That said it already.
Oh, man. Also, really quick, we're going to do a quick new thing here. We were sent a exclusive preview code for a game called The Persistence that's coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC on May 21st. And I am going to give my
graciously let Ray play it over me, by the way.
Yeah.
because something told me he was the right person to play the game.
Yeah.
When we are graciously sent tickets, though, to the Super Bowl, Ray is going to give those to me, even if the Giants are there. Yeah. That's the trade-off.
Well, if they're sending us, 2 tickets, then wouldn't we both go?
Yes. Ray, I've thought about your proposition, and yes, because my wife would have no interest. Yes, I'll go with you.
So we've got unfortunately, they only sent us one code, but being that I'm the one who's reviewed 550-something games now in his career, we figured it best that I be the one to play through it. The Persistence is a game coming out May 21st. Like I said, of this year, so it's something to possibly look forward to. But it's a port actually of a PSVR exclusive game that came out 2 years ago. This is something that actually happens a lot with VR games, is that sometimes they don't sell or there's not enough of an install base. But it's kind of like a proof of concept. It's something that they see they can work, and maybe there's an audience, and it sells well enough, and they're like, let's spread this around. The same thing happened with a game called Super Hot. If you're not familiar with Super Hot, this was originally a PC VR game. Where it's a first-person shooter, but it's kind of like the Matrix. It's other characters only move when you move, and you fire your gun, so you have to keep moving, so the bullet will keep traveling, but you're trying to avoid other bullets, and so it's got a real Matrix feel. This similarly is a first-person shooter. It's set in space, but unlike that game, which was more just kind of the fun of the mayhem and the chaos, there's actually a story to this, and it's a roguelike, which means that when you die, you lose a lot of your progress, but not all of it. And the idea is that you play as this girl, Zimri. You're a security officer on the spaceship, the Persistence. You're a deep space vessel. You're exploring, and you get too close to a black hole. And this kind of wreaks havoc with your systems. And as you maintain, you get to a position where you can maintain the ship's distance from the black hole, but it's knocked out too many of your systems, including the auxiliary clone machine. Basically, if somebody dies on the Persistence, it's okay, you'll just reclone them and their memories will go to a new body. Unfortunately, when this gets knocked out, the Persistence gets overrun with deformed clone copies of the crew, and what ends up happening, basically they're like zombies. So it's kind of got that, it's kind of got a survival horror aspect to it, where it's all these deformed people who have been spit out of this broken clone machine, but they basically act like zombies, and you can actually hear them kind of muttering to themselves about things that they used to do, and some of them go through their emotions as if they're still a person. They go up to security consoles and they try and hit it and stuff. So it's actually really, really fascinating. And as Zimri, as one of the few people left who hasn't been destroyed by these mutant monsters and who has access along with only one other person, who's kind of your narrator, Serena. She kind of guides you through the ship and what you have to do to fix everything. You have to get through the clones and the decimated clones of your old crew. And some of them have half their heads, so they're called listeners. Because they have no eyes, but they can hear you, so they have super hearing. Others are your typical cannon fodder kind of zombie. You have your berserkers, who are kind of your big hulking brutes. You have kind of what they call weepers, which is kind of like the sirens from Left 4 Dead, where if they see you, they'll scream and they'll stun you, and then they'll shoot a laser out of their mouth, which it hurts. But you have a shield. And then there's the lurkers, who these are the creepy ones because they look like little children and they crawl around and they'll pop up on you, and they did the work. They were the ones that did the most damage to me and freaked me out the most, especially when there's one section where you have to get through it completely in the dark, and if you turn your flashlight on, they're gonna come after you. So it's like, I'll say this: I'm glad I didn't play this in VR, because I might have crapped my pants in a couple of sections. I'm not going to lie. There are definitely some jump scares and definitely some really good jobs that they do with the audio. Makes it very atmospheric. Like the sounds of the ship. I'm kind of liking it to Dead Space in a way, where as grates fall or things hiss, right? Like steam is being released from things that are overheating. It really sets this atmosphere. Even early levels of Alien Isolation, it really sets the atmosphere of being a creepy game as you kind of have to work your way through it. And it's called the persistence because you're gonna die, especially early on. You're gonna die, but because it's a roguelite, you'll get remade in the one good clone machine that's left. But you lose all your guns, you lose where you were on that level, and you have to start over. You have to go scrounging again for guns. Fortunately, the gun-making resource, which is these fabricator chips, and the things that allow you to upgrade your clone's health, you get to keep. So it's a bit of a grind, though, it feels like, because at times sometimes you're just going out on a run just to get those resources, so they die and you get sent back so you can upgrade, so that your next run is even easier. But yeah, so I've given you the story. It's actually a really intriguing story. The gameplay, this is where it falters a little bit, because it was set for a VR game. As a first-person shooter, it falls a little flat. It feels a little slow, because as a first-person shooter, in VR, they don't have things go too quickly because they're worried about motion sickness. I would have loved if they could have added, like, a run button to the port of this game for Xbox One and PS4 and PC and Switch. Oh, by the way, if you got it on PSVR, it's free. You'll get a free token to get it on PS4 regularly now, if you so choose. It's only and it's also I'm going to put out there only $30 when it comes out at the end of May. So it is a budget title. It is So it is very affordable, and I think it's nice to see this is the second time that we've got a game this year for only $30. That might not be the most polished game, it might not be the best game, but it's good. And at $30, I think it's nicer to mitigate your risk with that. So I will say that. But again, the action doesn't flow very well because you can tell it was set for VR. Right, I felt like that once I did get into an encounter with the zombies, or I was discovered or whatever, and I couldn't sneak around anymore, or it was a boss battle, I would have really loved the ability to run around. And you have like a short-range teleporter, which again is also very common in first-person shooters for VR. But I would have loved the run button. It seems simple, but it seems it might have been too much to do in this port. But overall, I'm kind of rambling a little bit here. There's a challenge mode that you can do once you beat the game. There's actually 3 different endings. 2 bad endings, 1 good. I'll admit I got one of the bad endings, but I was kind of okay with it because by the time it's called the persistence, but at the time I was done with it, I'm kind of like, I'm done. It took me 12 hours to beat the first time. I'm good. And there's other little things, too. The user interface is kind of wonky because in most games you press A or you press X or you press whatever to interact with something. With the game, they did it where you have to have your sight line on the thing to interact with it because, again, in VR, if you're looking with your headset, that makes it a lot easier than actually pressing a button on your controller, makes it more immersive. I would rather if they had changed, again, the user interface to make it more in tune with the controllers because it was very unnatural when you've been playing first-person shooters for years to not press a button but to try and use your sight stick to pick something up. Overall, final verdict, 7 out of 10. Solid. Not spectacular, but solid. Again, this is 5 as an average, right? I'm using my old EGM score when I was the EGM reviews editor. We did 5 as an average, and we stuck by that. 7 is a good game. It's not a great game, but it's a good game. And for $30, I would say this. I actually think the VR game is probably even better. It's probably even better in VR. So if you do have the VR headset, you can still get it for VR for $30. And if you want a real scare, I could definitely see this game giving you that. But since I only played the non-VR version, I'm going to tell you right now, 7 out of 10. Comes out May 21st. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, and Switch. Not bad. Not bad. Their persistence.
Ray,
Yes.
question for you.
Yes.
Did you say that in this game there are little children-like characters that will sneak up on you and jump on you and surprise you and try and kill you, and you can't run away from them?
It's like being a parent. Yeah.
Hey! No, I was gonna say because I've experienced. It's terrifying. I've been there. You know, this game is probably more real than you realize. But I'm just thinking because like I know 2 children that have snuck up on me, scared me, jumped on me, and tried to kill me, and I can't run away, Ray. I can't run away, and it will make it worse. I don't have a cloning machine. I can't just respawn. You know, like I'm in this for like the rest of my life.
Yeah.
There's no short-term portal that I can jump through.
Yeah.
All right. And you know, you go outside, there's berserkers, there's people that can't see, there's people that are blind, there's people that just don't know what they're doing. So this is based on actual life, Ray. Okay? And you know what you need to do to survive with children, Ray?
Get a Sentinel hand pistol?
You need to persist.
Oh,
you need to have some persistence. I served the ball up for you, Ray. All right, you even had the pandemic insurance, and you didn't hit the ball.
Yeah, I know. This is why I just play video games. I'm real terrible at hitting the ball.
No, this is why I'm the parent and you're Uncle Ray. This is why.
That's right. That's right. Uncle Ray comes and visits a couple times a year, and then goes back to California.
I give my children a 7 out of 10. 5 is average, but 7 are good kids, not great kids. Good. Okay, I give him 10 out of 10, just in case. Logan, Alina, if you're listening to this in the year 2042 for whatever reason, you get 10 out of 10. Okay, but just know that I have no hair at all on my head. I love you both very much, but this is me in the future, the past, telling the future you, I love you, 10 out of 10, and have fun with your kids. Sorry, what were we talking about?
Yeah, when your grandpa,
when
your grandpa Lee, you'll be that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, great Uncle Ray. Let's keep going.
Yeah, great Uncle Ray. But no, it was a good game. It was a
good review, by the way. That was a very in-depth review.
Thank you. I try. I mean, especially it's weird for me because I didn't write it, doing it verbally and not writing it out. Like, I mean, obviously, I've written 500 plus reviews over the course of my life. You write it out. This was kind of more.
What a geek, right? What a geek that likes sports.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but yeah, so thank you to the thank you for the guys over there who gave us the code. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
We do.
Yeah, we do. We really do.
We will share that clip multiple times.
We will share that clip for sure, definitely, because we want to get the. Again, I wouldn't share it if it was a bad video game, right? Like, I mean, it.
No, you'd say that. Yeah, you'd say we got a game. It was bad. We're not sharing it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Again, Fire Sprite. I can't forget Fire Sprite that developed it and published it. A lot of former Sony folks over there, over in the UK actually, who made this game. So thank you for the code. We really do appreciate it, and we hope to hear more from you guys in the future. But yeah, so moving on away from video games now to comic books. I don't have a real good transition, folks. I don't know. You know what's trying to keep persisting too? Batman keeps trying to persist. That's what keeps trying to persist. And these leaks are.
Why did you say that name, Ray?
Yeah, I know. So this week's script details for the upcoming Robert Pattinson Batman movie leaked, and both me and Lee, not too thrilled about them. Supposedly, the idea is that Batman is going to be a noir detective, and this guy who keeps leaving riddles at the crime scenes he keeps murdering mayoral candidates in Gotham, and some guy named Oswald Cobblepot is just an innocent mayor candidate, and he's going to try and be a good guy, and he's going to help Batman. Newsflash, folks, you've already given away too much of the script. We already know how it ends. The Penguin is the one who hired the Riddler to kill all the other mayoral candidates so that the Penguin can run unopposed to be the mayor in classic Penguin fashion. This sounds like garbage. So there we go. That's the new Batman script.
Well, as Ray said, so there's a few possibilities here, right? Ray said it. It's supposed to be. They have been touting this as it's a detective Batman. It's Detective Batman. He's the world's greatest detective. We focused on that.
Yep.
Which, okay, whatever, it's 15th try, right? Here's the thing. We didn't talk about this, right? Even if there's a twist in that storyline, because I know Catwoman's in it and there's some other, even if there's a twist, now I'm looking at it and like, there's going to have to be one hell of a twist to make me even remotely happy. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, there's only so many twists you can do within the Batman canon here. Right? That would make sense. And it's like, I don't know.
How can it not?
Part of me
be
thinks
the
they're trying to give it away. Well, that's the thing. But part of me thinking they're trying to do that. But it's like now you get disappointed if it's not the Penguin because you think you kind of figured it out. The other thing we were saying is that please spare us the origin story. Please spare us the Batman origin story. We don't need it. Yeah. We know it. And I famously used the Tom Holland Spider-Man in Civil War as they did his origin story in one line. They got it out of the way because they knew the audience knows it already. I remember the line. It's like 2 weeks ago I got bit, or 2 months ago I got bit by a spider, and now I have these powers. Boom, done. Origin story. We don't need to know the rest because we know it already.
Yes.
I don't need to see flashbacks of anything. I know it's Batman. Just if you need to throw it away, be like, my parents died and now I'm avenging them. Okay, good. Thanks. We know. Thank you, Pattinson. Move on. Don't shine when the sun comes out.
Yep, that's it. So I mean,
vampire Gryffindorian actor who's actually a pretty good actor, to be fair to him.
Well, I mean, that's the sad thing about the script. This script leaking the way it did. Like, I mean, I'm willing to give the actors all the benefit of the doubt. It is a great cast. It is definitely a great cast. I am not gonna deny that. But the fact that now I'm going in with a certain expectation for this movie because the script leak. I mean, Nolan was so tight-lipped about The Dark Knight, despite even though everybody hated Heath Ledger as the Joker, and the idea, and all he did was then show us the first 6 minutes, and everybody was on board after that, and that's all he had to do. This is the full script leak, basically. Yeah. Almost the full script, but it's too many details. Just give us a tease to make us feel better. Because on paper, this is the most paint by numbers Batman
story. Don't tease
story.
us at all. Don't even tease us. It's Batman. Don't even tease it. I mean, they showed more of the Bat costume, and now I'm like, nah, it's not looking good. Yeah. Remember the first one came out, and I was like, it was really dark, and I was like, oh, look, let's give it time. I've always been super fair. Yeah. I've always been super fair about this, and it's like now they showed more of it. I'm like, oh man, I don't like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's, by the way, Ray, we're wearing the same T-shirt.
Yes.
Look at that.
Geeks who like,
we're both wearing the same Geeks Who Like Sports T-shirt.
Yes.
We get it.
Yes.
Anyway, look, time will tell. I'm hoping to be pleasantly surprised, but like now that we know what we know, a twist is. I'm not saying it's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's to be very hard to pull off a twist that's making sense. And like I said, because the twist I think about, if it's not the Penguin or they kill the Penguin, or it's somebody else, it's like that. That's not good enough. That's not a good enough twist. It's got to be something that we can't predict that makes sense. Right. Not like, oh, it was Catwoman the whole time, or like, hey, Catwoman's pregnant. Oh, okay. Let's keep moving on.
Yeah, no, and by the way, if you
haven't heard our episodes 4 weeks ago, Catman is pregnant in the comics.
Yeah, and if you kill, and by the way, if you kill the Penguin in this, and that's your twist, this will be the worst. Yeah. The worst Batman movie probably since Batman and Robin. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm a little. I'll just say this: I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out on Batman right now. So it either will bring it back or it won't. That's where we're at.
So speaking of Catwoman being pregnant, I want to do a quick thing. So Lee knows this, is that sometimes I have these semi-deep thoughts that and I'm thinking about comic books in the middle of the at 4 a.m. as I'm trying to go to sleep.
It's semi-deep. They're just deep.
They're semi-deep, but recently there's been a huge resurgence for a push for Harley Quinn because as a strong female character gotten out of the abusive relationship that is the Joker. And it makes sense. The Joker was abusive and all this other stuff. Like, he was very bad for her. And it is a good message there that even that's why she's turned more of an anti-hero. She's not really a bad person. She was just kind of made that way by a bad man in the Joker being the greatest villain of all time. But what I want to know is that we're celebrating, though, Batman and Catwoman's relationship. And isn't that kind of an abusive relationship, too? Like, haven't they always, like, fought each other, and she's left him, and he's left her, and he's thrown her in jail, and, like, they've, like, literally beat the crap out of each other several times, and also in the movies, and, like, I don't know, and now they're all lovey-dovey, and they're working together as, like, this perfect team, and, like, and now she's pregnant with his kid, and, like, and also, like, isn't that the same thing with Batman and Talia al Ghul, and, like, isn't that a abusive relationship, and they had a son, and, like, in certain comics, they end up together, and, like, I don't know, all I'm saying is, I get that the Joker and Batman are two sides of the same coin and everything, but, like, why aren't we also focusing on that Batman ain't exactly the best relationship dude either? Just kind of, you know.
I will say this. In the entire Justice League, no one is less qualified to be a father than Bruce Wayne for multiple reasons, right?
Yeah.
Even Cyborg would be a better dad, okay,
I agree
if he
with
was
that.
able to become a dad, okay? 2 is anyone that is in the position of Batman and Catwoman would not have a child because there's too many enemies. Bruce Wayne is not a loved character in Gotham City, right?
Yeah.
The kid's going to be silver spooned, and then there is no possible way that kid does not get into either a life of crime or a life of danger, which goes against every parenting instinct that I have. It makes me wonder if the person that wrote this has children. Okay? At least if Superman has a kid,
I believe Tom King
he can
does.
protect them. I'd hope so, right? Wonder Woman, great parent. Superman, there's nothing that you could really do to stop him. Besides, his kid could probably kill you anyway, right? Cyborg can't have kids. Flash, his kids visit him in the past. So we know his kids are all right.
Yeah, no, his kids
They
get
can
superpowers too, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the whole Justice League. Batman is the last person on the list that I would choose to have kids, and even more so with Catwoman, drops it even off more. They're not qualified to be parents. They both have parental issues, psychological issues. Some would say borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
Child is not going to make that relationship better.
Yeah. So even Green Lantern would be a good dad. I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Martian Manhunter was a good dad until all the Martians were wiped out because of but he was a good dad.
He's
until
still a
then.
good dad by avenging it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot. I can't think of anyone in DC on the hero side less qualified to be a father.
Yeah. And again,
yeah, even Booster Gold would be a good dad.
I think so. No, it's true. It's very
conform.
true. I think Batman would be,
he's a dad to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to disqualify Deadpool on this one, even though he's another universe.
Yes.
All right?
Well, speaking of another universe, we're going to that's a perfect segue into our Marvel talk now for today. We've got 2 big Marvel stories. We'll start with the Marvel Sony one, which is, of course, we have the official title now for Venom 2, which is Let There Be Carnage. Woody Harrelson is playing Cletus Cassidy, the famed serial killer, who, of course, bonds with the Carnage symbiote. The question is now, of course, how does he get Carnage? How does Eddie is it a second symbiote? Does the Venom symbiote produce this Carnage symbiote just like in the comics? How true are they going to be to canon, and how much are they going to just try and fit it into the movie universe? Because this is a big deal. This is the first time Carnage is going to be on the big screen, and this is. For most people, myself included, absolutely love the character of Carnage because it brings Spider-Man and Venom together. Are we going to see Tom Holland in Venom 2? What is going to happen? There's a lot of potential here. Don't mess it up.
Yeah, no, and look, this is also a character, including Venom, who I know has a movie already. But this is really Sony's first, okay, you're kind of in the MCU now.
Yeah.
So how you represent these characters is going to be congruent to that. So I'd be surprised if we didn't see Tom Holland in this, even if it's just as a cameo or something, or he's at the end, or maybe he's even heavily involved. It probably would be a smart decision.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is that, Carnage is a really ambitious character that needs a rated R film.
Mm-hmm. He's a serial killer.
And also, He's a serial killer, and he's Joker level bad.
Yeah.
Put it that way. Which is I'm not saying that lightly. That's a pretty huge thing to say, that he's Joker level bad. All right, because the Joker is the worst of the worst. So I mean, my hope is that this is not like the one-off movie where he's in it and out of it, and that's all we get of Carnage.
Yeah.
I mean, Carnage in the comic books wreaks havoc on New York City. I mean, there's so much you could do there.
Maximum Carnage, one of my favorite comics of all time.
Yes, and one of the best things that they could do with this movie is not rely on Spider-Man, but build up Tom Hardy as Venom and Woody Harrelson as Carnage as really strong, independent characters that Spider-Man needs to be involved with. Keeping in mind, too, that the thing with Spider-Man, this is why we might not see him. I think he'll be in the movie, but it's because of the cliffhanger at the end of Far From Home. I'll give a quick spoiler alert right now. If you haven't seen Far From Home, I'm not spoiling the movie, but I am spoiling the post-credit scene right now, where he's outed as Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So they have to address that somehow. They can't retcon that. That would be very annoying if they did, and not a good move. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that, or how does Spider-Man even interact in a world where everybody knows where he is. I'm not sure if I can't tell if Marvel didn't think that through in terms of where his future was, or knew exactly what they were doing by leaving such a major cliffhanger. Like, okay, Sony, good luck. I can't tell the politics behind that. But Let There Be Carnage is a great name. It's like Let There Be Blood. It's exactly where they're going with that.
Yep.
Giving you a heads up on what it's going to be. So Sony somewhat starting to redeem itself after years of horrendous X-Men movies.
X-Men was Fox. X-Men was Fox.
That's what I said. Years of Fox making bad X-Men movies. Sony has a chance to redeem 20th Century Fox. That is not what I said. I was incorrect. Fox, you sucked at that too. The last 2.5 movies, maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
And Sony didn't do great with Spider-Man either until Disney showed him how to do. Marvel had to show him how to do it.
Yes, it was bad. Yes.
Other Marvel news: Kelsey Grammer, formerly speaking of the X-Men movies, played Beast in X3.
Fair enough. Beast. And a cameo in Days of Future Past.
Yes, that's very true.
Yes.
Is rumored now in the greater Marvel universe to be playing Kang the Conqueror.
All for it, man.
I think that is a great decision. I think that is a great choice. Kang, a very cerebral character, a time traveler who constantly going back in time to try and make himself ruler of the universe each time he does.
Yeah.
A constant villain with the Fantastic Four, which we've talked about now. People are already starting to talk about that they are going to be introduced soon. Sooner rather than later.
And the X-Men and mutants.
Yes. So this is actually a great move, and I think it would be a great casting, I think. And then he could team up with Carnage, and you'd have a Cheers reunion. Sorry, I just saw that. But
sometimes you want to go where Carnage even knows your name.
Dun, dun. Carnage is just there behind the bar. Kang the Conqueror.
Frasier?
Yeah.
When Frasier travels back in time again.
Actually, I would love that I wonder if we could ever get to a point where there's a classic, where all the characters from a classic sitcom have been cast in the Marvel Universe, and then we do something like we're Elimination Cafe, where we have everybody.
Oh, yeah, they all go to a bar.
At a bar.
Don't I know you?
So
that would be unbelievable.
So Ted Danson, you're next. I don't know what we're gonna do for you, but keep on calling them Marvel guys.
I don't know. I could see him in a Doctor Strange movie for some reason.
Yeah, I think he would fit in. I think he could fit in there. For sure. Definitely. But yeah, so casting news there. More casting news. Chris Hemsworth, again, speaking from the Marvel Universe, Chris Hemsworth, a.k.a. Thor, is going to be playing, and to go back to wrestling a little bit, Hulk Hogan in a Hulk Hogan biopic. So I am all for this.
Yeah, I'm interested. He's going to have to get a lot bigger, believe it or not. He's already huge, but he's going to have to transform his body a bit to play Hogan.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, his arms are gigantic, but they're not Python gigantic.
Yeah, they're not 24-inch pythons.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about the sarcasm of, I am a real American, but, like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see that. We'll see how that plays out with an American accent and blonde hair and a goatee. Listen, I'm not against it. I'm not gonna. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what he does. I just can you see Hemsworth like, what you gonna do, brother? Like, it's gonna be really interesting to see him because he's listen. Here's the deal. He's got to nail that, or it's a problem.
Yes.
You know, he can't be doing that with like.
Eat your prayers. Say your prayers and eat your vitamins.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got to really think about it. Unless it's like a behind the scenes, which it sounds like it's going to be. Still, you got to nail it. You know why, Ray?
Why?
Because that's what heroes do.
That's Oh goodness. We also mentioned Kang the Conqueror as a time traveler, of course. And speaking of time travel, Lee is very happy about the Back to the Future news that just came out that yes, the reboot is debunked. It is not happening, if I'm correct.
It is not.
Yes.
There's that. Okay, there's no reboot being made, but Bob Gale, the producer of the movie, came out, and he acknowledged this, Ray. This is really weird. So he acknowledged... So Back to the Future, little preface here, is considered one of the perfect movies ever made, meaning that there's not a lot of loopholes in it. Mm-hmm. That are stretched loopholes, meaning that like they're not like you have to go certain distances with your mind to get to a loophole in that, right?
Right.
So one of the loopholes that was there, or if you want to call it that, was everybody's always saying this: how did Lorraine Baines McFly and George McFly not recognize Marty as their son, as Marty McFly, the kid from the past, or Calvin Klein?
Yeah, I love this.
So it's always been a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always been that, like, how do they not know that their son is Calvin Klein? And like, now we were, all my friends in camp were thinking this, and Bob Gale just kind of confirmed it. But he said it. He goes, listen, if you were 18 and a kid came to your school for a week, just a week, right? Yeah. And you saw him here or there, and even if he had an impact on your life, what are the odds that 30 years later you're going to remember exactly what that person looks like? So he was saying that, like, they might look at their son Marty and say, well, he looks familiar. But the odds are that, and he said, how many people do you know that from when you were 18? And we're about, not 30 years past 18, but, like, I'm 18 years past 18. I don't remember people I met for a week when I was 18. Yeah. So even people that had an impact on me. So it was a fair explanation. It closed that loophole, although I didn't know it needed to be closed, thus making Back to the Future an even better film, one of the greatest films of all time. My favorite movie. Everybody knows I love Star Wars, but Back to the Future is my favorite movie. I can't wait to finish building my 1/8 scale DeLorean to show all of you.
Yes. That will be a lot of fun. So so look at that. We've almost landed the plane. We've actually we got through all the stories we had to get through. So now
we did it, Ray. We did it.
So now we got
I'd like to thank my mother, my father, and drone on for 15 minutes, so we can't land the plane. Or in other words, in this show, it would be trying to land the F-15 and Top Gun, the video game. Up, up, down, down, left, left, right, right. Will we make it? We'll find out tonight on Can We Land the Plane? Continuing my 90s references, Ray, back to you.
Yes, we got one more thing. We've got our mashup for the week. We've got this is from Lee, of course. We talked about the Madden cover this week today. We talked about the Madden cover. So what other video game characters would you want to see on sports games? Now, of course, Mario and Sonic have been on sports games. Mario has been in almost every sport: tennis, golf, baseball, soccer. Mega Man has had a sports game. Mega Man Soccer. Sonic has been on the Olympic Games. But what other video game characters would you want to see on a sports game? Master Chief, Warthog Racing.
Okay, so mine's a geek. They've been in a video game, so I'm allowed to use this. Ninja Turtles, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see a Ninja Turtle, Tony Hawk type game with the Ninja Turtles. Or, you could do ice hockey with the Ninja Turtles. You could do baseball. You could do any sport with the Ninja Turtles. They win either way.
Yeah. I mean that would be great. Actually, you could do basketball. You have Splinter as the point guard and the 4 Turtles.
Yeah,
and
Shredder on the other side with the Foot Clan.
Yeah. Bebop, Rocksteady.
Bebop and Rocksteady. See, you're already thinking it.
Metalhead maybe? Put Metalhead over there? Or Spike. Maybe Spike the evil turtle.
Spike would be there too. And we can't forget the female turtle that we forgot her name.
Oh, Venus.
Venus. Yeah, Venus could be there from season 5.
Yeah.
It was a good attempt. I'm not gonna. She wasn't a horrendous character. It just was the wrong time.
Yeah. No. It's a attempt to sell more action figures. But
I mean, and I think we have to say Link too. Link deserves a sports chance.
Yeah. Well, I mean
the guy runs. He's like track and field star, man. I mean, that guy's run Hyrule Field 1 billion times.
That's very true.
Or equestrian with Epona.
I was just about to say, yep. Yeah, horse racing, definitely.
That
Fishing.
brings back memories.
You just do a
competitive, yeah.
Yeah, just
I
do
caught
a
that
Legend of
eel
Zelda
once.
fishing game. I know people who all they do in some of these games is fish.
Well, I remember with Ocarina of Time, you could get that eel, and that was pretty elusive, and I got it. I'm not going to lie to you. It was not worth the bang for the buck on that one. The game was good, though.
Yes. Oh, goodness. But, yeah, no. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely other options out there. I mean, speaking
How
of
about
other
Little
cartoons,
Mac again? I talked about Little Mac. You tell me Little Mac doesn't deserve his own boxing game? He beat Mike Tyson in his prime without Tyson landing a punch. It's incredible.
Yeah.
He deserves Little Mac's boxing.
Yeah, that could be fair. I mean, I definitely could see that. If we're gonna go Ninja Turtles, GI Joe sports game.
I'd go Transformers before I did GI Joe, but sure.
That's fair. I could see that too. Definitely, Transformers would probably be more fun, more visually enticing because of GI Joe.
Imagine a racing car game where they're just going around making left turns, and then all of a sudden, it's like start fighting each other. Let's roll out. Where's my pit crew?
There it is. That's what we want to see. We want to see a Transformers racing game, and then it ends at the finish line with them fighting each other. That's what we need.
Yeah. What was that Decepticon that essentially turns into rollerblades and he starts skating around the streets? That'd be fun. And there's one of them. Like his feet turn into wheels and he starts skating.
Oh yeah, I can't. I'm not sure.
It's all right. You that are listening, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know who you want to see, what game character you think would be a good character in front of their own sports title. So let us know with comments below. And now officially, you feel that, Lee? Smooth landing, buddy. We've done it. We've gotten through episode 54. And you have gotten for listening.
Right now,
we appreciate if you're at this point, you've listened to us the whole way today. And actually, it's not even our longest episode. We honestly, I mean, we did cover a lot today, so that's why me and Lee were kind of joking, but we were worried
quick
about
topics.
Yeah, we had a lot of topics, good topics, but a lot of topics. But yeah, no. So thank you all for listening again. Be sure we're wearing our Back to the Future, our Geeks Who Like Sports shirts.
You won either way on that one, but
yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm looking at the rundown and
Great
it just
Scott.
popped out. Yeah, got our Geeks Who Like Sports.
This is
shirts.
heavy. This is heavy.
I've had a couple people direct message me saying they want to know where they can get it, they can get them. We haven't opened up a shop yet, but comment on the show and let us know if you guys would actually be interested in these.
Keep in mind, we're trying to be a little not tone deaf with what's going on in the world, and we don't want you to spend your money on a T-shirt if you need to buy food. So that's run through our heads a few times. But if you really want them, we'll get them made. I just don't want anybody to think like we're trying to push that, because we're not going to make any money on these shirts. Just that's not how that's going to work. So just
no, exactly. But like I said, I've had a couple people reach out to me directly. So that's why I mentioned it again, and we both happen to wear them today. But yeah, no, thank you everybody for listening. We truly appreciate it. Don't forget to give us those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. It's for your own good. No, stay tuned. Again, later in the week, we've got a great leaderboard interview with Dan Hevia. We're going to go more into the draft with him. We also talk a lot about the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance. Dan's a big Bulls fan, so it was really great talking to him about that. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Thank you all for listening to today's episode, and we will see you next time. For Lee, I'm Ray. This has been Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 54.